we're gonna have you guys shout out loud, and we're gonna do this because this mic right here is recording it for our video. If it doesn't sound that great, that's all right. We're gonna get some time for questions for Seena about anything, about her story, about her work. We're gonna start passing the mic around here.
Thank you for speaking, Seena. What I would like to know is, can you expound a little bit more about your statement, we love our sons and we raise our daughters?
So, glad my mom's not here today. This is one of these bits that sends you to therapy, right? So when we talk about loving our sons and raising our daughters, it means that oftentimes in my community, in the household, the daughters bear the brunt of the responsibility. The daughter is the person that you teach how to cook. The daughter is the person that when the parents get infirm or elderly, that they have to take on a lion's share of responsibilities, especially if you happen to be the oldest daughter or the youngest daughter. Sometimes if you're the middle daughter and you've got an older sister or a younger sister, you can get away with some of that. But oftentimes, a lot of what it means to run the household and some of those notions about domestication are put forth. And oftentimes what young sons have to do is receive love and just be there and potentially make their beds.
This is a really easy question, not particularly deep, but just curious. Say more, what are you getting your PhD in and where, what are you hoping to do? I don't know why I'm talking into this. It's not working, but that's okay.
She asked where I'm getting my PhD and what I'm doing. Yeah, I sure skirted over that, didn't I? So I'm getting a PhD at Hamlin in the School of Business in Management and Public Service. I'm really gonna try to figure out how to create better cross-sector collaborations, because some of them stink. But some of them are good. But you know, the good ones, let's expound upon those. But yeah.
So the mic still records for the video we're making.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your honesty. And I almost hesitate to bring this up, but I am a 75-year-old white woman. And I just joined another board which has no people of color on it. And how can I, in my everyday life, have more real interaction with people who don't look like me? I'm so tired of it. But when I go into, for example, I worked at Women Venture a lot, and then I'm the only white woman with a whole, it's so frustrating. But thank you so much for what you said.
So first, you could take me to lunch. We start there. But seriously, I challenge us to look at the things around us. Where do you shop? Where do you worship? Right? All those things that you do out of necessity, what might it look like to do that somewhere else, somewhere differently, to go outside of your normal footprint? I think that's a way to do that. I also think that authenticity is key to developing relationships with people who are different than you. You know, I'll be honest, it's really weird. I have a company called The Woke Coach, but I don't love talking about race and racial identity, but I think it's necessary for my own survival, right? So I think that when we're trying to develop relationships with other people, we have to be informed people. What that means is, for example, you know, if you want to get a new job, first thing you do is you see the listing and then you give your resume, your cover letter, you give them all the information. What do you do when they call you and say, hey, we want to do a phone screening? What's the first thing you do? Anybody know? Panic, yes. But after you finish panicking, you go on the internet and you research everything about this company. You go on LinkedIn to see if you have any connections with people who actually work there. You do all of this. And if it's a nonprofit, you're savvy, you go on GuideStar to see how much money you could possibly make. We do all those things to our benefit. What might it look like to have done that level of research about, you know, indigenous people before you go and ask a bunch of questions about their culture? Some people like to answer questions, but sometimes it's easier to ask a question that says, I was reading about blood quantum and I had a question, a clarification. That's a different question than, what is blood quantum, right? And if you don't know what blood quantum is, that's your homework assignment.
So a little bit to what Mary Jo was saying, I'm a 60-year-old white woman, and my feelings of otherness have to do with discrimination of sexism, but now ageism. And shocking, it's just like you're invisible at a certain point. Can you speak a little bit to how you deal with comments or behavior that's overtly racist or sexist?
Yes. So how do you deal with comments that are overtly racist or sexist? Generally, my advice to people in this scenario is I always ask a question. And the question I ask is, did I hear you just say? Because either one of, a couple of things will happen. Either because you've asked the question, they'll say, oh, yeah, I probably shouldn't have said that, and they'll correct it, or they'll double down on it, right? but it gives you a path to know at least what you're dealing with. And then once you ask that question, then they will start to explain themselves. And then once you just keep doing the fact finding. As you have more information, then you respond to what you're hearing. That's the best way that I can give people advice. I don't generally start out with like, don't say that, unless it's like somebody in my family, don't say that, right? But otherwise I say, oh, tell me more about that. I get curious because I also want to understand why they think that it's okay to say what they said. They might just be uninformed, which is one thing, or they might be like overtly sexist or overtly racist, which is a different thing.
Hi, thank you for coming to speak today. It's been really great to hear from you. I just have one question about, just kind of being on your journey when you find yourself in hard places. I know that you're talking about 2025, and I find myself in a place right now professionally where it's kind of hard to feel the optimism and the positivity. I just want to ask, like, what do you do to pull that self out of like what seems like thin air? Like, what are the kinds of things that you can? Where do you reach for those things?
Yeah. I'd like to start by saying I'm very sorry that you feel that way. I'd also like to just say I see you and affirm you, right? What I think is important when we're going through tough times, you just did the first part. The recognition part is the first piece. Oh gosh, don't make me cry. But it is, the recognition part is the first piece, because if we don't recognize often that we're in trouble until we're sliding down the wall or we're in the back of the ambulance. And the reality of the situation is that we have to start checking in with ourselves more regularly. And then once we know that it's not okay, then it's okay to say, I'm not okay. That's the first step of it. And then after we can acknowledge that we're not okay, then we can actually pull apart the pieces that make us feel like we're not okay. Because sometimes the piece that makes us feel like we're not okay is the relationship we're in. Sometimes the piece that makes us feel like we're not okay is the job that we have, right? So it's different pieces. So we have to do that assessment. And then we have to find out what it is that's really at play for us. And once we can identify it, then we can solve for it. You've identified your career as a place that's tricky for you right now. So now you can solve for that. And the questions that I would just start to ask myself. So first of all, also, don't put pressure on yourself to come up with a solution like super duper quick. Like, cause that's also very hard. If we start to say to ourselves, like, I gotta figure it out. Sometimes we have to sit in it, and it's okay to sit in it. It's okay to feel how you feel, and it's okay to sit in it. But I think it's important to, once you know exactly what it is, just start asking yourself questions. For example, I might say, like, if I could do anything I wanted every day, what would it be? And just start thinking about that. And it will appear. I mean, I know that one day I just want to have an island and, do nothing where it's warm, but, right? Anybody got a lead on that? I'm all down. Yeah. It's wild, man. What's for Greenland is I did not see them put up a sign in the front yard, but okay. I think you have one more. Do we have one more or no?
You go real quick.
Okay. Okay, can you go super quick?
By the way, and what is one thing that you could say black kids or black families want from a school?
Shit, one? That's the last question you, yeah.
Not quite yet, and I know that there's a lot of work regarding, yeah.
I think that's a huge question, and I think it's highly individualized, and I think that's the first thing. I think people want to be seen as individuals and not necessarily as a group as it relates to the things that they need, because everybody needs something different. So with the recognition that people need different things, then we have to figure out how we employ equity, which is making sure that people have exactly what they need to be successful. That's where I'd start. It's the understanding that groups of people are not a monolith, and so what they need are different things. So that's the first step of a very big scenario. But yes. All right. DM me on Instagram. Thank you.